welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold, and today we get to the long-awaited video where I try to cut a gear. Now that's like many other things that I do here, it's going to be the first time I've ever done it. And so to find out how, I started to search through YouTube, and of course the most prominent thing to pop up was Mr. Pete. And then I went through a couple of his videos, and the first video we were on track good, and the second video he used a slightly different formula and confused me a little. And when I say a slightly different formula, I mean this little formula here to find the pitch. On one of them he had P equal N over D, and the next one was P equal N plus 2 over D, and so that made me wonder what the heck. So then I looked more, and there's Keith Rucker, and I knew Keith Rucker had successfully cut lots of gears. And so I looked on his, and he's got a spreadsheet that pretty much uses those formulas. In fact, I've got here, let me get my cheaters. I've got here pretty much a set of calculations. I believe this is out of Machinery's Handbook, and here's the Mr. Pete calculation here and here. You can apparently this is outside diameter that we're calculating. This is pitch diameter. So anyway, this was my confusion, and Keith Rucker squared it all away. He had a spreadsheet which I pretty much copied, and all his formulas were, you know how a spreadsheet is, the formulas hidden in the cell behind the numbers. But in the description of each part of the formula, he showed what was in the cell, except for the very last one at the bottom, which figured out your working clearance. Anyway, I managed to fool around with that and figure it out. Machinery's Handbook has got everything you could possibly ever want to know about cutting a gear. And I guess you heard the air conditioner kick in. It's warm in Texas again. Anyway, the Machinery's Handbook has got everything you could possibly ever want to know to cut a gear. There's pages and pages of nomenclature, which is a fancy word for the words that you know things mean, you know. And you get way down there and you get lots of pages of formulas and lots of different tables, and digging through that, you know, for an amateur can make you feel worse off than you were before you started not knowing anything. And so it was kind of nice to go over and look at Mr. Pete and look at Keith Rucker. And there's not just a whole lot of people on YouTube that show you all the ins and outs of cutting a gear. There's lots of people that cut gears, or several anyway, but sometimes the explanation doesn't go very far, if there is one. So anyway, I've studied it really carefully, and I've gone through all the stuff, and I've got pictures of all the different, say pictures, video copy or whatever, of all the different formulas and such. And I got one here. This tells me how to set up my rotary table, and it came with the rotary table, and there's a nice set chart. So many teeth, use this plate and that many turns, etc. So I didn't even have to figure that out. Another, let's see, now that's nothing, that's spare paper. And here was Mr. Pete's from Mr. Pete's video on indexing. And using it I came up with 2 turns and 7 holes on a 28-hole ring, which where did I lay that thing? Which is exactly what this guy told me without having to do any calculations. So anyway, I've affirmed for myself that this does work, and calculations came out right, proved by that table. Like I say, this one is getting the depth of the tooth. That's the one that confused me, because In one video, I think 192 or 193, he used the formula without the +2, and then he went on to video 208, and he used the formula like this, and probably I misunderstood, but that did cause me a disturbance. If you calculate it this way, you don't come out with an even number, and if you calculate it like this, you come out with an even number. And he had taken one of those, he rounded it up, so, you know. Anyway, I've got the mandrel size, which I ordered a mandrel to put the gear on, and I've got a drawing here of the gear. I guess I just make sure that you guys can see these things, but anyway, I've got a drawing of the gear. It's got a 3/16 keyway in it, and it doesn't really need them because in the spot it's used in, it's not on a key. So I'll show you the gear I'm going to copy here in just a minute. I will go handheld. Let me get my cheaters on here for some of the close-up stuff. I'm going to move the camera now, and it's going to be bumpy and wobbly. And all right, this gear is going to fit on my Craftsman lathe. It's the one they call sliding gear. It's right down in there. That guy right there. This one here. I think you can see, okay. That's the one I'm going to copy. And he's just on a bushing. He doesn't have a key in either one of the keyways on it. So whether I cut the keyways or not, that'll be you know, something I'll figure out as I go along. If I take a notion I want to cut them, I will. It's going to be a lot harder for me to do than other people because I don't have a broach. But I do have a little machine I made for that some time back. Alright, we're going to spin the camera around again. That's what I'm going to get my gear material out of. It's not cast iron, it's not steel. It's a piece of 1/2-inch thick aluminum that I got from somebody about 40 years ago. It's cut out from a plate that they were making something, and I used to have about 8 or 10 of those, but I've slowly used them up, and I'm down to my last 2. But I'm going to take a hole saw, and I'm going to cut out a circle here that's a little bit bigger than that gear, and then I'm going to put it on the lathe, and I'm going to bore the center of it to 3/4 of an inch, and then I'll put it on that mandrel, and I will turn the outside of it down to 2.625 inches. And once we've got that done, we'll put it over on the little grizzly, and we'll start cutting the teeth. And with any luck, I'll come out with a usable gear. If not, well, at least we'll see how it might have been done. Alright? I almost forgot something that I was going to tell you guys. I bought a set of Chinese gear cutters, and all the formulas that I've seen, of course, they show you how it tells you the pitch. This is a 16, 14.5 degree angle, and then it says this is cutter number 1, and it'll cut from 12 to 13 teeth. Well, I looked back at Mr. Pete's chart, looked back at Keith Rucker's chart, and I looked at the chart machinery handbook, and by them this should be number 8. Well, the one that's number 8 in my set is I think 53 to a rack, and that's supposed to be, I think, number 1. Anyway, when I saw all this was backwards, it gave me a big bunch of indecision and wondering, and I couldn't prove what was the right way and the wrong way, and there wasn't any, you know, I mean, they got the right number of teeth for the last, you know, cutter in the set. Each one of them has got just this number is backwards all the way through the series. Excuse me. Anyway, I looked on eBay, and you can see them there yourself. They've got a picture of all 8 cutters in the set, and some of them say China here and some don't, but the cutter number is exactly backwards. I don't know if it makes any difference. I certainly hope not, but anyway, I chose the one that would do 35 to 54 teeth or whatever it was, because I'm cutting a 40 tooth gear. But it did cause me a great deal of concern, and I wasn't able to find out from anybody any remarks on this one way or another. So there you are. Anyway, I'm going to take this hole saw and set my drill press down really low, and we're going to cut out the blank and get on with this job. Well, I've tried to fasten this thing down and got my drill press running as slow as it'll go, which is almost, I don't know what, 230 RPM. That's as slow as it'll go, and I'm sure that's too fast for that cutter, but maybe it'll last long enough to get through. Need a little lubricant there. Where is it? There you go. Alright, let's try again. You can see it's difficult. I'll be back to you guys once I get it cut through. I was down to about that last 16th before my brain actually turned on again. It cuts really good as long as the teeth are, some of the teeth are above the surface. And I was down to about that last 16th of an inch. It was really difficult, and then it dawned on me, unbolt that thing and turn it over. You see, I got that bolt right through the middle of it there. So I turned it over and it went right through in just a matter of seconds, whereas before it was really getting harder and harder to move. My piece of metal is here. I thought it was stuck up inside there, but there it is. So here's our gear blank almost. Got a lot more machining to do on it yet, but we're going to get there. Here's one of the little charts I meant to show you guys and couldn't find it when I was fumbling around a minute ago. But I got it off the internet as a PDF, and I printed this out from it. And here's all the gear cutting formulas, pretty much in order. Everything you could need. Sort of made simple for the amateur. So that was from Boston Gear. Okay. I've got a 5/8 drill bit here. I want to end up with a 3/4 inch hole. So 5/8 is about as close as I probably should try to drill it before I bore the hole. That'll save me most of the work, hopefully. So, I think this thing's running too fast. I'm gonna have to move the belt down. Well, maybe it's down some. Let's see what happens. I may wind up too far out around for this thing to work out right. Look at that. That's not good. I think I'll have to work on the hole a little bit before I try drilling it or anything. Man, I may even have to bore it. Okay, so I spent more time straightening the thing up in the chuck, and then I went back with a center drill and shoved it through the hole, which wasn't really dead center anymore, until I made a nice round hole, and then I worked my way up in drill bits to the 5/8. So I've got a little over 100 thousandths to go here, and I'll be doing it with a boring bar, and I don't see much to be gained by you watching me run that boring bar back and forth through the hole. It couldn't possibly be interesting, so we're going to just sort of gloss that over, and I'll be back to show you the result. Alright, that appears to be about 7.751, which is a thousandths bigger than I wanted it, but it'll fit the mandrel, and we're just cutting a gear. We're not trying rocket science, so I guess that'll do for my first gear to fit on there. The original hole should have been 750, although the hole in that gear is like 753 or something, so you know it'll fit like the one that's on it for sure. Alright, well, let me pull it out of there and set it up between centers, and we'll turn down the outside. Alright, I'm going to true up this little center, and then we'll get the thing all set up between centers with the lathe dog and all that, and we'll make this blank to the right dimensions. Alright, that ought to be true again. And now we can turn this tool post back around the way it belongs. Oh, it is. That's not the way we turn this whole compound rest around. When you see it next, I'll have the lathe dog on it. I know that at one time I had a dead center, and I can't find it for anything. It's just taking wings, I guess. I've got 3 live centers, and this is the best one I've put on there, and there's about 2 thousandths run out on this end here. So I guess that's what I'm going to have to go with. It's probably not going to be a good gear anyway. I'll probably mess it up some way, but there is that little bit out of true on this mandrel. It looks like, I don't know if the mandrel is it or if it's the centers, because it got better when I changed to this other live center. Probably it's the center. So anyway, I've got to clean this thing up, and I'm going to check the other end of the mandrel, see if it wobbles around any. Well, down at the other end of the mandrel, it looks like about 1 thousandth run out. So it could be the mandrel. I don't know, but we're gonna go ahead and go with this because it's what we got. I may go in and dig into my micrometers and get out a 2 to 3 inch, because I know the calipers aren't going to make a really good measurement on this, but I'm going to true it up a little bit first. Oh, I guess it wouldn't hurt to put the dog back on it. That'd make it work better. Took the dog off because I wasn't sure if it was the cause of the wobble. And burn it. It's not on there tight. I'll have to go and work on this a bit. Well, I got it cut down to size. It's the right diameter and the right thickness. And so now it's kind of warm, So it needs to cool off some. I noticed the hotter it got, the further it slipped down toward the big end on that mandrel. And I'd like to stay a little bit further back away from it than that. So I'm going to let it cool down overnight, and then we'll come back tomorrow, put it all back together, and we'll cut the gear teeth. Well, we all know Bubba comes from a big family, of colorful folks. Anyway, he's got this great uncle Booger, and Uncle Booger, he lives way out in the woods. It's so far out there that they had never even thought about running any electricity out there. So he don't have any, no electric lights or running water or nothing like that. He just lives in a cabin way out in the woods. Guess he makes it mostly on hunting and a little farming. And so Uncle Booger's wife was pregnant there, and so he sent for the doctor, figuring it's about time. The doctor got there, and the doctor says, "Well, Uncle Booger says, hold up that lantern there so I can see what I'm doing." So he does, and sure enough, here in a little bit, a baby is born, and Uncle Booger starts to set the lantern down. The doctor says, "Oh no, don't set that down yet." He said, "Hold it up. I think there's another one coming." And sure enough, in a few minutes, there's another one. Well, Uncle Booger, he's starting to set that lantern down. The doctor said, "Oh no, don't set that lantern down yet." He said, "I think there's another one coming." Sure enough, in the middle of it, there's the third baby born. Uncle Booger, he's starting to set down the lantern. The doctor said, "No, not yet, Booger. Hold that lantern up." He said, "I think there's another one coming." And sure enough, another, the fourth baby's born. And Uncle Booger says, "Hey, doctor," he says, do you reckon it's the light that's attracting them?" Well, I don't know. Well, that's all, folks. Y'all try to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave a comment if you got something to say. And above all, remember, keep on keeping on. Bye now.